It's September the 25th, and in a couple of days Tommy Robinson is going to go back to court to face not only the charges of which he was originally accused, but two additional ones. And while I was doing research on that, I was looking online for various bits of information, and I came across this article published in the Independent at the beginning of August. So it's a little old, but it's interesting nonetheless. It says here, Tommy Robinson has left prison with more money and more backers after a swell of support from right-wing activists, according to new research. Well, I wouldn't call myself a right-wing activist, and I gave him money. And I've given him money on several occasions. But it's very interesting that they start their article with, he's left prison with more money and more backers. It's that more money that gets me. They're trying to, well, what they are doing is they're saying, if he's got more money, there's got to be something wrong with him. Not that there's something wrong with the legal process that put him in jail on false pretenses in absolutely every step they made. Okay, he's currently a free man after judges at the Court of Appeal quashed a 13-month sentence at Leeds Crown Court as the result of a fundamentally flawed process. That means that the British judicial system had got it completely wrong. And yet, all they can talk about is the fact that he had more money. International protests started almost immediately after Robinson was jailed. And he received almost £20,000 in Bitcoin since that date. £20,000 is nothing. It's nothing at all. He's got a family to support. £20,000 is not much of a yearly salary if you consider that he was supposed to be in jail for a year and a quarter. And he had legal costs as well. £20,000 is nothing. Legal costs could chew up £20,000 in a couple of weeks, I should think. And it says here, followers from as far afield as Istanbul and Washington sent donations in virtual currency, according to the Press Association. It's somewhat ironic that this advert is playing next to this article, because here is something about Bahrain. My wife has been sentenced to jail in Bahrain. She lives in the UK. This is Saeed Al-Wadai. I fled Bahrain, sorry, a few people fleeing this country as well, I should think, during the Arab Spring, but my wife and her family are being punished for my human rights protests in London. Why won't the UK act? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? Because they're certainly acting quickly enough in the case of Tommy Robinson. Yesterday was Mother's Day in Bahrain. Well, this is, you know, a fairly old article as well. And it was yesterday that my wife, Dua Al-Wadai, the beloved mother of my two children, was handed a prison sentence, not because she committed any crime, but because I protested in London when the King of Bahrain visited Downing Street in 2016. She is not the only one to face reprisals because of my human rights activism in London. Her mother, brother and cousin all languish in Bahrain's notorious prisons, tortured and convicted after a flawed trial. So here we have a human rights abuser that imprisons people for the perceived sins of their relatives being advertised in the Independent here, which is running an article talking about how rich Tommy Robinson is. I might say that the British government is also punishing relatives. The mortgage fraud to which Tommy Robinson pleaded guilty was a conviction obtained because the police said if he did not plead guilty, they would go after his then pregnant wife. So it looks like they have a lot in common here, don't they, with Bahrain. It says here, Robinson's following on social media has also surged, and he's been publicly supported by figures including the US President's son, Donald Trump Jr. Several crowdfunding pages for supporters to donate in dollars and pounds have also been set up, and the 35-year-old's official website allows visitors to make one-off or monthly donations in pounds. So there you have it. He has support from all sorts of people, as they said, from Istanbul to Washington. And yet, all the Independent can do is run adverts for Bahrain and say that he's now a rich man, or imply that he's now a rich man for speaking out. And what's he speaking out about? He is not calling for violence. He is simply stating facts. Now, whether he should have gone outside that court or not is another matter. I'm not entirely sure he should. However, I think anyone could reckon he's done his time now. And the British government, I do not understand what's going through their tiny little minds. I honestly don't understand what they think they're doing. Former Breitbart Executive Chairman Steve Bannon and his ex-London editor Raheem Kassan have also been using international interest in Robinson to drive their own attempt to create a group called The Movement, which will seek to influence European politics. I've never heard of this. I'm going to look that up. But I doubt it's got anything to do with what the Independent are implying. And then it says UKIP has pledged to work with this group. I'd like to know more about it. Well, that's it. Anyway, I mean, it's a long article. It says here that he's been completely idealised as a symbol of freedom of speech by people in the US and his supporters in the UK and across Europe, Miss Ebner told The Independent. They all have an interest in uniting the right to build common ground. Even the very extreme fringes know they can use Robinson as the moderate mouthpiece for their own ideas. It's very opportunistic. He's providing them with the perfect figurehead and the perfect narrative. That's because he has been handed on a plate by the British government. He has done, actually, nothing against the law. Well, and certainly a lot less against the law than a lot of the people who have been standing on British streets saying, behead those who insult Islam. Oops, should I have mentioned that? Who is this Ebner woman anyway? Oh, here we are. Julie Ebner, a research fellow at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, said that while prominent alt-right figures and rebel media had upped Robinson's profile in the US, the pan-European generation identity movement has spread its message across the continent in multiple languages. Look, all of these movements, which you find so disturbing, are there for a reason. It's because people feel they are at the blunt end of a series of great injustices. Now, whether you like their opinions or not, this is what they're trying to tell you. And imprisoning people for saying such things, for coming out with it, is not going to make it go away. It's just going to turn people like Tommy Robinson into the martyr that you so fear. I'm very grateful for financial contributions. But if you don't want to give money, you can still help a lot by sharing this and other videos I've made. Also, remember to check your subscription from time to time, as sometimes subscriptions get erased for one reason or another. Till next time.